When the autopsy report of Ron Goldman was revealed, it contained details so shocking that O.J. Simpson's family was stunned. The report uncovered injuries that painted a brutal picture of the attack, including deep knife wounds and signs of a violent struggle. The cause of death was confirmed as multiple stab wounds that inflicted fatal damage. But beyond the injuries, the report revealed evidence of blood spatter and DNA traces linking Simpson to the crime scene. Forensics also showed that Ron Goldman suffered injuries consistent with fighting back fiercely. This new information caused a ripple of disbelief among Simpson's relatives, who had believed in his innocence. The report's detailed findings raised serious doubts and intensified the media frenzy. Every piece of evidence seemed to point directly at Simpson, leaving his family and supporters in shock. They couldn't believe how such brutal details could be uncovered, shaking their trust in the story they had held onto. As the report's details spread, it solidified the arguments against Simpson, but also ignited heated debates about justice and truth. This revelation changed the course of the case, and the public's perception forever. New information about the tragic death of Ron Goldman highlights the brutal circumstances surrounding his murder. His autopsy report reveals many disturbing details that paint a frightening picture of the violence he endured. Ron Goldman was found with multiple stab wounds, indicative of a vicious attack. The report showed he had suffered injuries not only to his chest and neck but also to his hands, suggesting he fought back against his attacker in a desperate struggle for survival. This indicates that he may have tried to defend himself against a fierce and relentless assault attempt. The nature of the injuries points towards a high level of aggression, portraying a scene filled with chaos and horror. Investigations into this case captured a nation, especially since it involved O.J. Simpson, a prominent football star turned actor. The brutality of Ron Goldman's demise ignited conversations about violence and justice, leaving an indelible mark on society. This case serves as a chilling reminder of the real and tragic consequences of violence, making it a significant point in the history of American crime. After a quiet evening in 1994, police officers arrived at the scene of a brutal crime outside Nicole Brown Simpson's house. Nicole, the ex-wife of O.J. Simpson, had gone out to eat at a restaurant earlier that day with friends and family. Later that night, tragedy struck when Nicole and her friend Ron Goldman were found dead on the ground outside her home. They had been stabbed repeatedly in a savage attack that shocked everyone. The police quickly suspected O.J. Simpson because of past conflicts and the time the murders took place. He was arrested and charged with their murders, leading to a highly publicized and lengthy trial. The trial attracted national attention, with many people following every detail closely. O.J. Simpson's defense team argued that he was innocent and presented evidence that questioned the prosecution's case. On October 3, 1995, after months of court proceedings, the jury delivered their verdict and found O.J. Simpson not guilty of the murders. Even though he was found not guilty in the courtroom, public opinion remained divided on his guilt or innocence. The case became famous worldwide and is still talked about today. The details of the murders, the trial, and the verdict continue to be part of the conversation about justice in criminal cases. After the verdict was announced in the O.J. Simpson case, Ron's father, Fred Goldman, expressed profound disappointment, feeling that justice had not been done. He believed that Simpson's acquittal meant that a wrong had been overlooked, and this deep sense of loss and injustice continued to affect him. Many people speculated about the relationship between Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman, wondering if there was more to their connection than mere friendship. However, it was only confirmed that Nicole and Ron had recently become friends before the tragic events. It was disclosed that Ron had visited Nicole's house to return a pair of glasses that she had left at a restaurant, indicating that their relationship was friendly and incidental rather than romantic. Investigators later concluded that Ron's death was an unintended consequence, a tragic accident rather than a deliberate act. They believed that the violence was not planned, and that Ron had gone to Nicole's house for a simple reason, which was to return her glasses. Despite the various theories and public interest, the official findings pointed to an accidental outcome, emphasizing the gravity of that night's events. Fred Goldman's relationship with the case and Simpson's acquittal remained complex, filled with pain and frustration over what he saw as a failure of justice. His reactions and the ongoing debate about the nature of Ron and Nicole's relationship kept the case in public consciousness for years, fueling discussions about justice, friendship, and tragedy. The autopsy reports surrounding Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman's tragic deaths revealed several shocking details that had not been made public at the time. The investigations into their deaths showed that both Nicole and Ron had been stabbed multiple times in a brutal attack, but the specifics of their injuries, along with other facts, were kept from the media for some time. One of the most revealing aspects was how the attack was carried out, showing just how violent and deliberate it had been. This discovery was important not only because of the shocking nature of the crime, but also because it became a key element in the prosecution's case. Ron Goldman, born Ronald Lyle Goldman on July 2, 1968, in the United States, grew up in Buffalo Grove, Illinois. He had a challenging childhood, with his parents divorcing in 1974, after which he lived with his father, Frederick Goldman, and his younger sister. Despite the family challenges, Ron developed a strong sense of determination and resilience. He was of Jewish heritage, which became an integral part of his identity. Ron attended Adlai E. Stevenson High School in Lincolnshire, Illinois, where he worked hard to achieve academically and socially. After high school, he briefly attended Illinois State University, where he planned to study psychology and potentially pursue a career in that field. He also joined the Sigma Nu fraternity during his time there, which indicated his desire to connect with people and embrace new experiences. Ron's background showed that he was a young man full of promise, with plans and aspirations for his future. His tragic end, alongside Nicole, added to the complexity and emotional weight of the entire case. The revelations about the details of his death in the autopsy report only added to the heartbreak surrounding his loss, especially for those who knew him personally. His family, especially his father, was left to deal with the painful aftermath of his untimely death. After Ron's family decided to move to Southern California, he was only 18 years old at the time. He chose to go along with his family as they made the move, leaving behind his previous life and college plans. Once in California, Ron stopped attending the college he had been enrolled in, and instead began taking classes at Pierce College located in Los Angeles. This change marked a new chapter in his life as he adjusted to his new environment and the opportunities it offered. During this period, he developed a love for outdoor and active pursuits. He enjoyed spending his free time surfing on the waves of the Southern California coast, a popular and exciting activity common among locals and visitors alike. Beach volleyball also became one of his favorite sports, allowing him to socialize and stay active by playing on sandy courts near the ocean. Additionally, he took up rollerblading, an activity that offered fun and a way to explore the city while staying in shape. At night, Ron liked visiting nightclubs, where he could listen to music, dance, and meet new people in the vibrant entertainment scene of Los Angeles. These pastimes helped him settle into his new life and enjoy the lively California lifestyle. Living in Southern California, he immersed himself in the relaxed, energetic culture that the area is known for. Before moving to California, O.J. Simpson worked as a camp counselor, helping children learn and have fun at summer camps. During this time, he showed interest in helping others and enjoyed working with young people. After he relocated to California, Simpson's work life expanded as he pursued his dreams in football and acting, but before those successes, he focused on various jobs to support himself. He also volunteered with children who had cerebral palsy, dedicating his time to assist and bring joy to kids facing physical challenges. His dedication to helping others demonstrated his caring nature and willingness to give back to the community. Meanwhile, Ron Goldman, another person mentioned in this story, lived independently, supporting himself through different jobs. He worked as an employment headhunter, a job that involved finding work for others, showing his interest in helping people find employment. He also worked as a tennis instructor, sharing his skills on the tennis court, and sometimes he was a waiter, serving food at restaurants. Occasionally, Ron Goldman modeled for Barry Eldis, who owned his 9049 store in Brentwood Gardens. These various jobs reflected Goldman's desire to stay active and work in different fields. Both Simpson and Goldman had ambitions and worked hard to support themselves, each following their own paths. Simpson's work and ambitions grew as he became famous, while Goldman's efforts in employment, sports, and modeling showed his diverse interests and willingness to try different roles. After his death, Ron had obtained a license to become an emergency medical technician, showing that he was considering a new career path in the medical field. However, he chose not to pursue this route, deciding instead to focus on his dreams of opening a bar or restaurant. He shared his plans with friends, revealing that he had a special idea for the venue. Rather than giving it a traditional name, Ron wanted the place to be identified by the Ankh, an Egyptian symbol of life. This symbol matched a tattoo he had on his shoulder, which indicated how personally meaningful his concept was. He envisioned creating a space that stood out from other establishments, something unique that reflected his personality and interests. Ron's desire to incorporate the Ankh symbol showed he wanted his business to symbolize vitality and longevity, qualities he valued deeply. His plans demonstrated a creative and thoughtful approach, aiming to make his venue memorable and significant. Despite considering becoming an emergency medical technician, he ultimately decided that his true passion lay in hospitality and creating a place that embodied life and energy through a special symbol. This decision revealed his hope to leave a lasting impression on the Brentwood community with a venue that was both meaningful and unique. Firstly, O.J. Simpson was known outside his football career for having various interests and experiences, including some involved in the hospitality industry. He developed a keen interest in the restaurant and bar business, which he explored with the help of his friend Jeff Keller. According to Keller, Simpson was eager to learn all aspects of this industry. He didn't just show superficial interest. Instead, he immersed himself in gaining knowledge about how restaurants and bars operate, understanding different roles and the overall flow of the business. Sometimes, Simpson went beyond just observing and actively participated by working as a promoter at a dance club called Trips, located in Century City. This role allowed him to engage directly with the nightlife scene and learn how events are organized and promoted. Simpson's involvement extended to organizing larger gatherings, such as a Memorial Day celebration, where he was part of a group of event promoters. They collaborated to set up a big party at a well-known club and restaurant in Santa Monica called Renaissance. This experience gave him practical insight into event planning, managing crowds, and promoting nightlife activities. His enthusiasm for the hospitality industry showed he was interested in more than just being a customer. He wanted to understand the full process of running venues and creating memorable experiences for patrons. Simpson's efforts to learn and participate in these activities reflected a genuine curiosity about the entertainment and hospitality business, indicating his desire to diversify his skills and interests beyond his athletic achievements. The time he spent working as a promoter and organizing events highlights his entrepreneurial spirit and willingness to immerse himself in different professional environments. Ron Simpson had dreams of making a career in acting and appearing on television. In 1992, he achieved a small but notable step towards his goal by appearing on a dating game show called Studs, which was hosted by Mark DiCarlo. This appearance gave him some exposure and allowed him to showcase his personality to a wider audience. Despite his aspirations in the entertainment world, Ron's media appearances remained limited, but his participation on the show was a significant moment for him, reflecting his desire to be in the spotlight. Apart from his television pursuits, Ron also had a meaningful relationship with a woman named Jackie Bell. They shared almost 2 years together, building a close bond and sharing many moments. However, their relationship faced difficulties, and eventually Jackie Bell decided to end things. Sadly, this breakup occurred just 3 months before Ron's death, marking a difficult and emotional ending to a significant part of his life. Throughout his life, Ron's media appearance and his relationship with Jackie Bell remained important chapters. His appearance on Studs gave a glimpse of his ambitions to become part of the entertainment industry, and his relationship with Jackie Bell showed his capacity for love and connection. Despite the challenges he faced, these experiences shaped his story in meaningful ways. Since Nicole Brown Simpson was the one who called the police to arrest O.J. Simpson in 1989, it shows that there were repeated problems in their personal life. It was the 9th time the police had been called to their house because of violence. The assault on Nicole was serious enough to require police intervention, but surprisingly, it should have led to Simpson's 9th arrest. During this period, issues of domestic violence were not hidden or ignored. In 1993 alone, there were about 300,000 calls made to the police in New York City regarding domestic violence and wife-beating cases. Many people and organizations worked to bring attention to this problem, which was often hidden or ignored in the past. Feminists and advocacy groups worked for over 20 years to raise awareness, support victims, and change how law enforcement handles reports of domestic abuse. Their efforts helped push for better shelters, support systems, and laws to protect victims of wife beating. Because of their work, society now sees wife beating as a serious crime. These changes helped make reporting domestic violence more universally accepted and encouraged authorities to take stronger action. O.J. Simpson's case highlights the importance of recognizing and addressing domestic violence before it becomes deadly. It reminds us that domestic abuse is a widespread issue affecting many families, and that improvements in laws and support systems have been made thanks to years of dedicated effort by activists and victims alike. Today, society continues to work toward making homes safer and holding offenders accountable so victims feel more supported in seeking help and justice. O.J. Simpson is a well-known actor whose life and career have been overshadowed by a series of serious issues related to control and violence. While he gained fame as a football star and movie actor, his name is also connected to a darker side of human behavior that affects many women across the United States. Wife beating, a form of domestic violence, is sadly common because some men believe they have the right to control women in their lives. This belief leads them to use brutal violence as a way of dominating their partners, often causing devastating physical and emotional damage. In the United States, approximately 4 million women face this type of violence every year, and it remains a serious problem that continues to affect families and communities. Every 15 seconds, a woman experiences some form of domestic violence, which includes hitting, punching, or other harmful actions. Many women suffer in silence, fearing further violence or lacking support to escape their situation. This widespread issue highlights the importance of understanding control and violence, how they harm individuals, and the need for better action to protect victims and prevent such abuse from continuing. The story of O.J. Simpson reminds us that fame does not shield people from issues of control and violence that can happen behind closed doors, affecting countless women and families. It is crucial to recognize these patterns and work towards a society where respect and safety replace violence and oppression. When examining the case of O.J. Simpson, it is important to understand that many people misunderstand the problem he faced and the issues surrounding violence in relationships. The core problem is not with the woman or victim, but with the perpetrator, the person who commits the violence. A woman has the ability to change many aspects of her life, becoming stronger and more independent if she chooses to do so. She can attempt to escape danger by trying different methods, including seeking help from authorities, counselors, or victim advocates. However, even with these resources available, her safety and freedom are not always guaranteed if her partner remains committed to violence. If the abuser refuses to change or stop their aggression, the woman's efforts may still fall short of protecting her long-term safety. The legal system, along with counseling and advocacy programs, can offer some help, but they do not always prevent future harm if the perpetrator continues to be violent. Therefore, understanding that the issue lies with the person who is violent, not with the victim, is essential in addressing these serious problems. The focus should be on stopping the abuser and providing better support for women to escape dangerous situations. Only then can safety and freedom become a real possibility for victims in such cases. Stories of wife beating have often been met with disbelief and judgment as people question why a woman doesn't simply leave her abuser. Sadly, more women are killed by their abusers after they leave than while they are still together. Nicole Simpson was murdered in her own home, even after finalizing her divorce from O.J. Simpson in 1992. Despite their separation, he continued to assault her, threaten her, stalk her, and intimidate her. The abusive behaviors didn't stop just because the marriage had ended, showing how complex and dangerous abusive relationships can be. Women in situations like Nicole's often face overwhelming fear and control that makes it difficult to escape, even when they have legally separated from their abuser. This reality underscores the serious risks that many women face, even after they leave their abusers. Somehow, the idea that O.J. Simpson truly wanted to reconcile masked the harsh truth about Nicole Simpson's situation. Though he appeared to desire a reconciliation, it concealed a deeper, more troubling reality. Every woman who escapes a harmful relationship faces a difficult path, and Nicole was no different. Even after ending her marriage with Simpson, she was still vulnerable because the danger had not entirely disappeared. She had to carefully manage her safety, knowing that her ex-husband who had caused her pain was still nearby and could potentially cause more harm. This struggle is common for women who leave abusive partners. They may try to build new lives, but the fear and the trauma can linger. Simpson's supposed desire to reconcile could have been a way to hide the fact that the psychological and emotional scars remained, that Nicole's struggle was ongoing. Her situation was a reminder that leaving an abusive relationship does not always mean freedom from danger. and that sometimes the desire to reconcile hides a much darker truth about ongoing threats and the difficulty of truly escaping from past harm. Because of her feelings for her children and her desire to avoid conflict, Nicole Simpson had to be very careful around her ex-husband. She understood that even small signs of unhappiness or frustration could upset him and cause trouble. She knew that any insult to his pride or any hint that she was upset might trigger his anger and make him violent. Although it seemed like when she did something wrong, he would get angry, the truth was more complicated. He didn't always hurt her because of something she did. Instead, he decided when to hurt her, when to threaten her, or when to follow her. Still, she did her best to stay calm and avoid giving him reasons to become violent because she knew that her actions could influence his mood. She was very aware of the danger and tried to keep the peace, even though she was always on alert. Despite the uncertainty of his reactions, she wanted to protect herself and her children by being cautious and careful in every interaction. Her efforts to stay calm and avoid upsetting him were a way of trying to keep herself safe in a difficult and unpredictable situation. After their divorce, many people saw pictures of O.J. Simpson smiling happily with Nicole Brown Simpson and thought everything was fine between them. These photos seemed to show a friendly relationship and maybe even a chance for reconciliation. However, these smiling images were misleading and should have been a warning sign. They did not reflect the true feelings or the dangerous situation that was ongoing behind the scenes. Nicole Brown Simpson tried to keep the peace because she knew she could not trust others to protect her from him. She wanted to avoid more conflict and hoped that the pictures of happiness meant that things would get better. But in reality, her attempts to maintain harmony hid the trouble she was in. The images of them smiling together gave a false sense of security and made many believe that the couple was getting along. Instead, they were a sign of the complex and confusing relationship that continued even after their divorce. These pictures remind us that appearances can be misleading, and that sometimes what we see on the surface does not reflect what is really happening inside. Nicole's efforts to stay peaceful were born from her understanding of the danger she faced, and the pictures did not show the warning signs she knew were there. They only suggested happiness, but in truth, they concealed the truth about the situation she was trying to manage. O.J. Simpson's defense team faced significant challenges during his trial, especially in terms of how they presented the relationship between Simpson and his ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson. One key aspect of the trial was the language used to describe the events that led to Nicole's death. Simpson's legal team strongly objected to the use of terms like domestic violence or spousal abuse, as these words carried strong connotations that could influence the jury's perception of Simpson. Instead, the defense wanted to avoid terms that were already recognized as softer ways of describing abusive behavior, such as wife beating. They also fought against the use of terms like battered wife or stalker, fearing these words would paint Simpson in a much more negative light. The defense team was careful about the language used in court because they believed that the terms chosen could shape how the jury viewed the dynamics of the Simpson-Brown relationship. By limiting the language to less emotionally charged words, they hoped to reduce the severity of the allegations against Simpson. This tactic aimed at discrediting the claims of abuse and portraying Simpson in a more favorable light. Throughout the trial, this issue of language manipulation became a point of contention. While the defense sought to avoid terms that would suggest Simpson's guilt or a pattern of abusive behavior, the prosecution aimed to ensure that the truth about the abuse Nicole suffered was clearly communicated. This battle over language was part of a larger struggle to control the narrative surrounding the case, and ultimately influenced how the jury might interpret the facts of the case. Certainly, when discussing O.J. Simpson, it is important to understand the context of legal language and how it is presented in the media. In a notable case, a judge refused to alter the language used in describing a certain situation because he believed that using precise words was crucial to capturing the true nature of what occurred. The judge knew that changing the wording could distort the meaning or make it seem less serious, so he insisted on sticking with the original terms that accurately reflected the facts. However, despite the judge's decision to keep the language unchanged in the courtroom, some media outlets chose to modify how they reported the case. For example, on Rivera Live, a popular television program, they replaced the original descriptive term with a softer phrase, referring to the situation as domestic discord. This change was likely made to make the situation sound less harsh or less scandalous to the viewers. Interestingly, even a well-known lawyer who had successfully defended William Kennedy Smith in a rape case used the same phrase domestic discord to describe a serious situation. The choice of words in the media highlights how public perception can be influenced by the language used, and it shows that sometimes media outlets prefer to use less intense terms to describe complicated or sensitive issues involving well-known figures. This contrast between what is said in court and what is presented to the public illustrates how language can shape the understanding of legal matters, especially involving high-profile individuals like O.J. Simpson. The case's portrayal in different outlets reflects ongoing debates about the importance of precise language and the impact of media choices on public opinion. Nicole shared her deep fears with her mother just months before her tragic death. She confided that no matter where she went, whether it was a gas station, a shoe store, or even while driving, she felt as though he was always there, following her. Her simple words conveyed immense fear, despair, and terror. She had to endure more than just the physical presence of fear. It was an ever-present, unsettling reality that consumed her. Nicole also detailed the physical attacks she endured in her diary, yet those painful truths were kept hidden from the jury during the trial of the man accused of taking her life. These words, which might have seemed unimportant to some when she was alive, are now considered irrelevant in the eyes of the law. They are excluded from the trial, dismissed as hearsay, and not allowed as evidence. This is a stark reflection of a legal system that has long turned a blind eye to the violence and abuse women endure, particularly when it comes from the men they love, even their husbands. After the tragic death of Nicole Brown Simpson, it was revealed that just 5 days before her murder, she made a phone call to a shelter for battered women. Although this important detail will not be presented to the jury during the trial, it provides a glimpse into the violence she faced. Witnesses in public had seen incidents of Simpson's aggression toward Nicole, which could be introduced as evidence to show a pattern of abuse. These public incidents demonstrated that Simpson had a history of violence that others observed firsthand. However, the worst and most cruel acts of violence occurred behind closed doors, where no witnesses could see or testify. The severe beatings, long-lasting acts of cruelty, and emotional torment happened in private. Only Nicole knew the full extent of what she endured, making her suffering even harder to prove in court. Despite this, the facts surrounding her call to the shelter, combined with witnesses of public violence, helped paint a picture of the abusive relationship. Still, the deep and private pain she experienced remains largely unseen by others, making her case complex and emotional. All of this underscores how a victim can suffer inside a marriage or relationship in ways that others never fully see or understand. The case reminds us of the importance of recognizing signs of abuse and the hidden pain many victims carry with them. Since the focus is on disregarding Nicole Brown Simpson's experience, it is important to understand that refusing to listen to her story is equivalent to ignoring the reality of what happened to her. For many years, society, including the law enforcement agencies like the FBI and social scientists, did not believe that wife beating was a serious problem in the United States. It took a long time for this misconception to change. Initially, there was a fearful silence that lasted for centuries, during which men were often allowed either by law or by social norms to abuse their wives without consequence. This silence prevented many women from speaking out or receiving help. It wasn't until later that the truth of domestic violence began to come to light, and statistics started to show how widespread the problem was. The FBI estimated that a woman was beaten every 15 seconds in the U.S., and by 1984, the Justice Department reached the same conclusion. This shift was a slow process, and only after many decades did society start recognizing domestic violence as a serious issue that needed intervention. Ignoring Nicole's experience means ignoring the struggle women have faced, and the slow progress society has made toward acknowledging and confronting this problem. It is crucial to realize that dismissing her story contributes to the ongoing silence and denial that has historically surrounded domestic abuse, making it harder for victims to seek help and for society to address these crimes. Recognizing her experience helps shed light on a painful chapter that took centuries to understand and begin to change. Though the focus is on breaking the silence about abuse, it is important to understand how this movement aimed to give women strength and a voice. With the support of a powerful political movement, women who had endured abuse began to share their stories. Some spoke openly, telling others what had happened to them, while others chose different ways to express their pain. Many women ran away from their abusers, seeking safe places to live or face violence when they tried to escape. Some sought refuge in shelters, hoping to find safety and protection. Others fought back against their oppressors, even resorting to killing in self-defense when nothing else was left. As more women spoke out and acted, society began to pay attention, realizing that abuse was a serious problem. Social scientists studied these cases carefully, noticing common signs of injuries and patterns of abuse that many women shared. Their expert opinions became valuable because they could describe what was happening in clear terms. These experts were often called to give evidence in court, helping to prove what women had endured. However, despite this progress, the voices of victims still did not carry enough weight. Society and the legal system were slow to believe women and to see their experiences as serious crimes. Many women did not receive the help they needed because people still doubted them or did not take their stories seriously. The movement of breaking the silence was a step forward, but gaining true justice and trust remained a challenge. Recognition and change came slowly, yet the courage of these women led to greater awareness and understanding. Progress meant that some laws started to change, and more people learned to listen carefully when women spoke about their pain and suffering. Still, the fight continued to ensure that all victims could be heard and protected, and that society would no longer ignore their cries for help. Since now you are aware of why many people believe that O.J. Simpson was responsible for the deaths of Ron Goldman and Nicole Brown Simpson, it is important to look at the connection between Ron and Nicole before the tragedy. According to a Los Angeles Times article published on June 15, 1994, just 3 days after Ron Goldman's death, there was a close relationship between Ron and Nicole that attracted attention. Ron Goldman had met Nicole only 6 weeks prior to their murder. During those weeks, he borrowed her Ferrari, which indicates a certain level of familiarity and trust between them. In the time leading up to the murders, Ron and Nicole had been seen increasingly spending time together, sometimes meeting for coffee or dinner. However, despite these friendly meetings and seemingly close interactions, both police officers and their friends described their relationship as platonic. They did not see any romantic involvement between Ron and Nicole, and it appeared to be a straightforward friendship. Nevertheless, the fact that Ron became so close to Nicole in the few weeks before they died has led some to wonder about the nature of the relationship and whether it played a role in the events that followed. It remains an interesting detail that adds complexity to the case, especially considering the strong suspicion cast upon O.J. Simpson, who was known to have a troubled history with Nicole. The details about Ron and Nicole's friendship, especially their recent interactions, continue to be discussed and analyzed in the context of the case, making it a significant part of understanding what happened during those tragic weeks. After hearing about the incident involving Ron and Craig Clark, it is important to understand the details of their meeting and what was said. According to one article, Ron borrowed Nicole's car when he met his friend Craig Clark for lunch. During their conversation, Ron told Craig that the car belonged to Nicole. However, he did not mention that Nicole was his girlfriend. Instead, Ron only said that they were just friends. This detail might be important because it shows how Ron presented his relationship with Nicole to his friends. By saying they were just friends, Ron possibly wanted to keep their relationship private or prevent any assumptions from others. It also suggests that Ron did not want Craig to think there was a close romantic connection or that Nicole was more than a casual acquaintance. This small piece of information can give insight into the nature of Ron's relationships and how he chose to communicate about them. It may also reflect how Ron liked to keep some parts of his personal life separate from his public or social interactions. Overall, this testimony or detail from the article shows how Ron described Nicole and their relationship to others, which could be relevant in understanding his character and how he handled personal relationships. The story highlights how subtle words and descriptions can sometimes reveal underlying feelings or intentions that may not be directly spoken. It also emphasizes the importance of how people choose to describe their connections with others in different social situations. In the book Killing Time, the first full investigation into the unsolved murders of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman, written by Donald Freed and Raymond P. Briggs in 1996, an intriguing piece of evidence is discussed that was found after the death of Ronald Goldman. The evidence in question was a trace of lipstick found on Goldman's cheek. This detail was particularly significant because it raised many questions about the events surrounding the murders of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman. The lipstick was an unusual an unexpected clue that had not been widely discussed during the public trial of O.J. Simpson, the prime suspect in the case. The authors of the book focused on the evidence to suggest that there might be more to the case than what had been presented to the public at the time. The lipstick found on Goldman's cheek could have indicated a struggle or a possible connection between Nicole and Ronald in the final moments of their lives. This clue, along with others mentioned in the book, painted a more complex picture of the events that occurred that night, which were not fully explained during the trial. While the murders of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman remain a topic of debate and speculation, the discovery of lipstick on Ron Goldman's cheek became one of the many details that continued to intrigue those who studied the case. Certainly, during a broadcast of Larry King Live, the topic of the infamous night of the murder was discussed extensively. On that evening, Ron's father called into the show to voice his opinions and criticisms about the book written by Freed, which had attracted a lot of public attention. He expressed his disapproval and offered his insights into the case, highlighting his concerns about the book's portrayal of the events and the character of those involved. That same night, a significant incident took place involving Ron, who was working as a server at Mezzaluna Trattoria in Brentwood on Sunday, June 12, 1994. Nicole, a customer at the restaurant, called to report that her mother had accidentally left her reading glasses on their table during a meal earlier that evening. Although Ron was not the server who attended their table, he responded to Nicole's request and kindly agreed to deliver the glasses to her mother's home after his shift had ended. This act of kindness was noted because it showed Ron's willingness to help, even when he wasn't directly responsible for their service. The evening unfolded against the backdrop of the intense media coverage surrounding the murder of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman, which dominated headlines and public discussion. The case drew widespread attention, not only because of the tragic loss and the high-profile nature of the victims, but also because of the involvement of O.J. Simpson, Ron's ex-wife's former husband, who was later accused of the murders. The events that night, including the phone call from Ron's father on Larry King Live, and Ron's act of kindness at the restaurant, contributed to the complex narrative that kept the public and media captivated throughout the trial and aftermath. The case remains one of the most scrutinized criminal cases in American history, with many facets still debated today. After finishing his shift, O.J. Simpson left his workplace and headed home, reaching his Brentwood apartment at 11,663 Gorham Avenue. However, instead of immediately returning home, he stayed a little longer at the bar. According to the Los Angeles Times, he finished his work at 9:33 p.m., but decided to spend an extra 15 minutes there, having bottled water before he returned the glasses to Nicole, who was present at the bar. After this brief stop, he went to his apartment, located conveniently nearby. During that evening, O.J. Simpson had plans to meet his friend Stuart Tanner, a bartender at Mezzaluna's restaurant. Once he finished at the bar and finished his tasks at the apartment, he left and walked approximately 10 minutes to Nicole's condominium. This walk was part of his plans for the evening, likely involving socializing or meeting Nicole or others. His evening activity reveals a routine of finishing work, stopping for a moment to relax, then heading to meet friends or acquaintances, showing his typical evening outdoor movements. These details depict a regular pattern of social and personal activities during that night. After the murders at 875 South Bundy Drive, the police began a detailed investigation to understand what happened that night. They found Ron Goldman and Nicole Brown Simpson brutally stabbed to death on the walkway leading to her condominium. Their bodies were discovered shortly after midnight, deepening the mystery surrounding the crime. The investigators carefully reconstructed the events based on evidence and witness accounts. They came to believe that Nicole and Ron might have been talking when the attack happened, or that Ron had walked in just as Nicole was being attacked. This detail suggested that the attacker was intent on killing Nicole, and may have killed Ron to prevent him from identifying the offender. The police concluded that Nicole was likely the main target of the attack, given the severity of her injuries and the timing. They thought that the attacker's primary purpose was to silence Nicole, and that Ron's death was a tragic consequence of that intent. This theory shaped much of the investigation and public attention surrounding the case. As the investigation continued, many questions remained about the nature of the crime and the motives behind it. The scene at 875 South Bundy Drive became one of the most discussed and analyzed murder scenes in recent history, fueling debates about the case and the person responsible. The brutal nature of the stabbing and the circumstances made it clear that this was a carefully planned attack, leaving many to wonder about the assailant's identity and their reasons for targeting Nicole. The events of that night would remain a haunting mystery for years to come, with ongoing speculation and investigation. On the night of the tragic events surrounding Nicole Brown Simpson's death, a witness named Robert Heidstra testified about what he heard while walking near Nicole's house. Heidstra stated that he heard a man yelling the word "get" 3 times. Shortly afterward, another man shouted back at him. This testimony provided an important piece of the puzzle, as Ron Goldman's family believed that Ron could have been the one shouting the word, "Hey." They theorized that Ron may have been attempting to intervene in the violent attack on Nicole, possibly in an effort to save her from the assailant. This particular detail of the witness account added to the complexity of the case, as it suggested that Ron Goldman's involvement in the situation was more than just being in the wrong place at the wrong time. His possible attempt to help Nicole placed him in the thick of the dangerous encounter, raising more questions about the sequence of events leading up to the deaths of both Nicole and Ron. This testimony offered a glimpse into the final moments of the night and the potential heroism of a man who was caught in a tragic turn of fate. Ron Goldman was tragically just 20 days shy of his 26th birthday when he lost his life. He was buried at Pierce Brothers Valley Oaks Memorial Park in Westlake Village, California, a place that now marks the end of his short life. An autopsy was conducted on June 14 by the Los Angeles Medical Examiner. The findings from the autopsy report revealed the shocking brutality of his death. Ron had sustained numerous stab wounds inflicted by a sharp object, covering almost every part of his body. His neck, face, ears, chest, thigh, hands, forearm, and abdomen were all injured in this violent attack. While some of these wounds could have been survivable on their own, the fatal injuries were to his neck and torso. The report revealed critical damage to a major vein in his neck, as well as deep wounds to his lungs. Internal bleeding in his abdomen also contributed to his death. These injuries highlighted the intensity and viciousness of the attack on his life, marking a tragic moment that has remained in the public consciousness ever since. During the investigation into the murders of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman, a key piece of evidence was the autopsy report. The coroner's findings revealed that Ron Goldman had fought back against his attacker. There were numerous defensive wounds, primarily located on his hands, face, and upper body. These wounds indicated that Ron had not gone down easily and had tried his best to protect himself. The defensive wounds, which are common in violent altercations, were important in illustrating the struggle that occurred before his death. The presence of these injuries provided further insight into the violent nature of the attack, and showed that Ron had been fully engaged in trying to defend himself against whoever had attacked him. The autopsy details played a crucial role in understanding the events leading up to the tragic deaths, adding weight to the case's overall investigation. After the criminal trial, where O.J. Simpson was found not guilty, the case did not end there. The Goldman and Brown families decided to pursue justice through a civil lawsuit, which is a different legal process. In this case, the family sought compensation for the deaths of Ron Goldman and Nicole Brown Simpson. During the civil trial, the families argued that Simpson was responsible for their loved ones' deaths and deserved to pay damages. The court agreed, and in 1997, the Goldman and Brown families won the wrongful death lawsuit. As a result, they were awarded a total of $33.5 million in damages from Simpson. Despite the court's ruling, Fred Goldman, Ron Goldman's father, has repeatedly stated in interviews that O.J. Simpson never paid a single cent of the money awarded. This has caused ongoing controversy and disappointment for the families, as they believe they have not received the justice or compensation they were awarded through the court. The issue of whether Simpson paid the damages remains a topic of discussion and has overshadowed some of the legal battles related to the case. The case highlights the difference between criminal and civil court outcomes and the challenges families face in seeking justice and compensation. Throughout the years, the dispute over payment has kept the focus on unresolved issues from this tragic case. After a lengthy and highly publicized trial that lasted nearly 9 months, O.J. Simpson faced a trial that captured the attention of the entire nation. The case involved the killings of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman, and it became one of the most watched and discussed court cases in American history. During the trial, the prosecution presented both circumstantial and physical evidence suggesting that Simpson was responsible for the murders. This evidence included DNA evidence, blood samples, and other forensic details that pointed to Simpson's involvement. Despite the strength of some of the evidence, Simpson's defense argued that the evidence was mishandled, and that there was reasonable doubt about his guilt. The trial was filled with intense moments and dramatic revelations, drawing attention from millions of viewers who followed every development. The courtroom was crowded with media from all over the world, and the case sparked widespread debate about race, justice, and the legal system in the United States. Ultimately, after deliberating for several hours, the jury found Simpson not guilty of the charges. The verdict was controversial and sparked strong opinions on both sides, with many people feeling that Simpson was guilty and others believing he was innocent. The trial ended in October 1995 with Simpson's acquittal, leaving many questions unanswered and a lasting impact on American legal and cultural history. Because of the civil lawsuit filed in 1997 by Fred Goldman, Ron's father, against O.J. Simpson, the case took on a new level of controversy and public attention. The jury found Simpson liable for the wrongful death of Ron Goldman and awarded the Goldman family $33 million in damages. This civil trial highlighted how different people in the United States could watch the same court proceedings and form very different opinions. Some saw Simpson as guilty of a double homicide, believing he got away with murder, and viewed the verdict as a significant injustice. Others, especially in Black America, believed the police and justice system were biased and corrupt. They felt Simpson was framed, and that racism was a major factor influencing the trial and its outcome. The case revealed a deep divide in the country, especially around issues of race, justice, and trust in law enforcement. People's views on Simpson's guilt or innocence often reflected their experiences and beliefs about how Black and white Americans are treated differently by police and courts. For many white Americans, the verdict was seen as a grave mistake, while many Black Americans thought the system was unfair and that Simpson was a victim of racial bias. This case became a symbol of the larger racial issues in America, showing how justice is often viewed through the lens of race and social inequality. It also exposed how divided the nation was on important questions about crime, race, and fairness. First, after the high-profile legal cases involving O.J. Simpson, he faced further legal trouble unrelated to his earlier criminal case. In 2008, Simpson was convicted of an armed robbery that took place at a hotel in Las Vegas. The incident involved Simpson and several other men entering a hotel room and taking personal memorabilia that belonged to him. During the trial, many witnesses testified about what happened, and Simpson's involvement was heavily examined by the court. Both Fred Goldman, the father of Ron Goldman, and Kim Goldman, Ron's sister, attended the trial. Their presence at the trial was significant because the case reopened many wounds from the earlier criminal case involving Simpson. After the court reached its verdict, and Simpson was found guilty, Fred Goldman expressed his feelings openly. He stated that he felt a sense of satisfaction because justice was finally served for the theft and violence linked to the robbery. At the same time, he described his emotions as bittersweet because, although he felt relief and justice, the trial and its outcomes also reminded him of the pain and loss he experienced before. This moment was notable because it marked a chapter of closure for many people affected by Simpson's actions, but it also highlighted the complex emotions involved in such a well-known legal story. Simpson's conviction in 2008 kept him in the public eye and had lasting impacts on all involved, especially Fred Goldman and his family, as they finally saw some form of justice after so many years of pain. The case remains a reminder of how legal battles can unfold long after the initial events, and how they can evoke deep feelings of relief, sorrow, and reflection. Since August 2007, the rights to O.J. Simpson's book titled If I Did It have been awarded to the Goldman family. The book is presented as a first-person account in which Simpson describes how he might have committed the murders of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman. The Goldman family had struggled for many years to collect over a decade of efforts trying to receive the money owed to them from the civil jury verdict, which awarded them the large sum in damages. With the rights to the book now in their possession, they gained control over its content, along with the proceeds from sales. This included the copyright, media rights, and even the movie rights, giving the family full authority over how the book could be used and represented in various formats. Moreover, they acquired Simpson's name, likeness, and life story rights related to the book, which meant Simpson could not profit from the book in any way. This move was designed to prevent Simpson from gaining financial benefit from his supposed confession and personal story about the murders. The legal and financial control over the book allowed the Goldman family to ensure that Simpson remained barred from earning money through the book or related media, reinforcing their victory in the civil case, and further isolating Simpson from any potential profits connected to the controversial publication. After the tragic events involving Nicole Brown and Ron Goldman, the Goldman family faced intense criticism when they decided to publish a book titled If I Did It: Confessions of the Killer. This book was released in September 2007 through Beaufort Books, and was meant to be a memoir or confession from O.J. Simpson, who was accused and acquitted of Nicole and Ron's murders. However, the Goldmans chose to rename the book, which had originally been titled If I Did It, to avoid further controversy and to perhaps lessen the negative reactions. Despite this change, many people remained upset because they believed the Goldmans were trying to profit from the deaths of Nicole Brown and Ron Goldman. Denise Brown, Nicole's sister, publicly criticized the Goldmans for publishing the book. She expressed her anger and disappointment, accusing them of making money off the tragedy of Nicole and Ron. She felt that the Goldmans were exploiting their loved ones' deaths for financial gain, and found it morally wrong to profit from such a sensitive subject. This controversy created a lot of public debate about ethics, grief, and how families should handle public attention after a tragedy. The criticism was loud and persistent, with many feeling that publishing the book was disrespectful to the memory of Nicole and Ron. The Goldmans defended their decision, saying they wanted to tell their side of the story and shed light on the events that had affected their lives deeply. But for Denise Brown and others, the issue remained a painful reminder of how grieving families can have very different views about what is appropriate after a loved one's death. The story of the book's publication and the criticism from Denise Brown highlights the complex emotions and moral questions involved in dealing with tragedy, fame, and the desire for justice. When filmmaker Ezra Edelman received the Academy Award for Best Documentary Feature for his film O.J. Made in America, he used his acceptance speech to pay tribute to two individuals who played a significant role in the story. He dedicated the award to both Goldman and Brown, recognizing their importance in the context of the documentary. Fred Goldman, who was one of the people interviewed by Edelman for the film, is notably connected to the case because he was the father of Ron Goldman, one of the victims in the infamous O.J. Simpson trial. The documentary explores the life and struggles of O.J. Simpson, highlighting his career as a football star, his fame, and the tragic events that unfolded around the murder of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman. Edelman's choice to dedicate the award to Goldman and Brown was a meaningful gesture, emphasizing the human stories behind the legal case and the personal impact it had on the families involved. The film itself delves deeply into issues of race, justice, and celebrity, providing a detailed look at these complex themes through the lens of the criminal trial and its aftermath. By acknowledging Goldman and Brown publicly during his acceptance speech, Edelman brought attention to their memories and the ongoing significance of their stories. This dedication exemplifies how art and storytelling can honor victims, shed light on societal issues, and influence public perception. Their inclusion in the documentary served to remind viewers of the human toll behind headlines in courtrooms. Throughout the film, the stories of the victims, the accused, and those affected are woven together, offering a comprehensive narrative that goes beyond just the crime itself. Edelman's recognition of Goldman and Brown showed respect for their enduring legacy and the importance of remembering the victims in the broader conversation about justice and societal values. Their stories remain central to understanding the profound impact of the case on American culture and highlight how documentary filmmaking can serve as both a tribute and a tool for reflection. Their presence in the story underscores the importance of human connection and the lasting significance of truth and memory in public discourse. After O.J. Simpson's trial and subsequent acquittal, Fred Goldman, who was deeply affected by the case, shared a disturbing experience during an interview with Barbara Walters. During the conversation, Goldman revealed that shortly after the court's decision, a stranger approached him with an alarming offer. The stranger presented Goldman with the option to buy an untraceable high-powered rifle, suggesting that it could be used to kill Simpson if Goldman chose to do so. Alternatively, the man offered to hire someone else to carry out the murder, clearly implying that violence was being suggested as a solution. Goldman was truly shocked and appalled by this proposal. He found the idea of being involved in or orchestrating violence against Simpson not only frightening but also morally wrong. Recognizing the danger and the gravity of such a suggestion, Goldman refused the offer outright. His reaction showed his strong stance against violence and his desire to see justice through legal means rather than more violence or revenge. This incident highlighted how intense emotions still ran high even after the court's decision, and underscored the ongoing grief and anger that the case had stirred in many individuals. The interview revealed not only the raw feelings that lingered long after the trial, but also the dangerous situations that could arise in its aftermath. Fred Goldman's words shed light on the dark side of unresolved pain and the extreme reactions that sometimes followed such high-profile cases. As the interview continued, Walters probed deeper into Goldman's thoughts and feelings surrounding the case, emphasizing how deeply the tragedy affected him and illustrating the tension between justice, revenge, and moral boundaries. Goldman's account remains a striking reminder of the intense emotions and unpredictable reactions that can emerge in the wake of such a notorious event. Throughout the conversation, his refusal to accept violence revealed his focus on seeking justice through the legal system and his desire to avoid further tragedy. This candid revelation left a lasting impression on viewers, illustrating the profound impact the case continued to have on those involved and on the public consciousness. After O.J. Simpson's trial ended with his acquittal, Kim Goldman, who is the sister of Ron Goldman, shared a disturbing story about her encounter with Simpson. She recounted that sometime after the trial, she saw Simpson in a parking lot in Los Angeles. In the interview with 2020, Kim explained that she was driving her car when she recognized Simpson. The sight of him brought back painful memories of her brother's death and the emotional toll it had taken on her family. She admitted that, in that moment, she considered a harmful action as a way of seeking revenge. Kim said she briefly thought about running Simpson over, feeling a surge of anger and grief. However, she made a conscious decision not to act on this impulse and chose not to harm him. Instead, she controlled her emotions and drove away. This encounter revealed the deep pain and unresolved feelings Kim experienced even after the trial concluded. It also showed how difficult it was for her to move past such a traumatic event, and how she struggled with her feelings of anger and loss. Her story highlights the lasting impact of grief and the complex emotions that can surface unexpectedly, especially when seeing someone connected to a tragic chapter of her life. The incident remains a poignant memory for her, illustrating the intense emotional struggles faced by victims' families after high-profile cases. After reviewing the case of O.J. Simpson, in 2022, Fred Goldman, who had been involved in a long legal battle with Simpson, requested a renewal of his old judgment against him. Goldman claimed that Simpson still owed him a substantial amount of money, specifically $96 million, which stemmed from the wrongful death lawsuit related to the murder of Goldman's son, Ron Goldman. This action showed that despite the many years that had passed, the financial disputes and feelings of justice remained unresolved. Simpson's death in 2024 marked another chapter in this ongoing story. Upon hearing the news, Fred Goldman made a statement that initially seemed harsh, saying that Simpson's death was no great loss to the world. However, he also admitted that Simpson's death was a painful reminder of the long years since his son's murder and how much he continued to miss him. This statement reflected the complex emotions surrounding Simpson's life and death, ranging from bitterness to deep personal sorrow. Later, both Kim Goldman, Ron's sister, and Fred Goldman issued a joint statement expressing their feelings about the situation. They stated that their hope for true accountability had come to an end with Simpson's passing. Nonetheless, they took a moment to thank the public for continuing to keep Ron's memory alive in their hearts. This acknowledgement showed how, despite their pain and the years of legal battles, they appreciated the support and remembrance from others that helped keep their loved ones' memories alive. Throughout the story, the legal and personal struggles linked to Simpson's life and death continue to resonate with many, reminding everyone of the enduring pain and hope that can survive even the most difficult circumstances. After the lengthy and controversial trial, Fred Goldman made it clear that he would keep fighting to seek justice for his son Ron, despite the fact that Simpson's attorney had said that the Goldman family would not get any money from Simpson's estate. Instead of giving up, Fred Goldman and his family chose to take a different path. They decided to sell the book titled The If I Did It, which Simpson had written, and from the money earned, they planned to give a portion of it to a new charity called the Ron Goldman Foundation for Justice. This foundation was created to help people who have suffered from violent crimes. It offers grants and support to various organizations and programs that work to assist victims and their families. The Goldman family saw this as a way to take something painful and turn it into a positive effort to help others facing similar tragedies. By doing this, they aim to keep Ron Goldman's memory alive and to make a difference in the lives of people who have gone through violence and loss. This decision showed their continued commitment to justice and their desire to support those affected by violence in hopes of preventing future tragedies. Just as they fought to remember Ron and honor his life, they also wanted to bring hope and help to others who needed it most. O.J. Simpson, the famous former football player and actor, is connected to a foundation through the support of many individuals. One of the most notable supporters of this foundation is Mark Goldman. He is a Las Vegas executive known for his strong commitment to helping the cause. Mark Goldman has played a vital role in supporting the foundation, demonstrating his dedication through his actions and financial contributions. He comes from a family connected to Fred Goldman, making him a close relative, specifically his first cousin. This relationship highlights the personal involvement and emotional investment Goldman has in supporting the foundation's efforts. His support is seen as significant because of his position as an executive in Las Vegas and his family ties, which add a layer of personal motivation to his contributions. By backing the foundation, Mark Goldman helps to advance its goals and bring attention to its mission. His involvement shows how individuals from different backgrounds can unite for a common cause, emphasizing the importance of support from people with different experiences and resources. Goldman's connection to Fred Goldman, a key figure in the case involving O.J. Simpson, adds further interest to his support, making it a notable aspect of the foundation's story. His dedication reflects the broader effort of many supporters who believe in the foundation's purpose and want to make a positive difference. Through his actions and family ties, Mark Goldman remains a prominent figure among the foundation's supporters. His contributions and personal connection underscore the importance of community and family involvement in causes that matter to so many. In the end, his support helps keep the foundation active and inspired to continue its work in honor of its